Welcome back to my channel. Silence filled the courtroom, the kind of silence that makes your pulse louder than your own thoughts. Case number 1427, the Brown Family Trust versus Kody Brown. The gavel cracked through the air like a lightning bolt splitting the sky. For a heartbeat, even time seemed to stop. The courtroom itself felt alive, walls whispering judgment, history echoing in every shadow. The golden lights overhead hummed softly, illuminating the floating dust like tiny witnesses to a reckoning that had been years in the making. Spectators leaned forward, the air thick with tension. Phones silenced, hearts pounding. Outside, a media storm waited, cameras, microphones, reporters hungry for justice. This wasn't just gossip anymore. This was accountability on a marble floor. Kody Brown sat stiffly at the defendant's table, spine straight, jaw locked, eyes hollow. The man who once commanded homes and hearts now faced something colder than any ex-wife's stare. Truth under oath. His suit looked crisp, but his composure was unraveling. Across the courtroom sat three women, Christine, Janelle, and Meri, no longer sister-wives, no longer under his command. They sat as survivors, warriors of their own story. Christine sat closest to the aisle. Her hands clasped tight, her eyes unwavering, not angry but ready. Every breath trembled with years of silent endurance finally finding a voice. Beside her, Janelle flipped through a thick binder, tabs glinting under the courtroom light. Calm, methodical, unshaken. The quiet kind of strength that doesn't need to shout to be heard. And Meri? Her fingers brushed a silver ring, eyes shimmering with unspoken memories. Love, loss, and rebirth. The look of a woman who had died in hope and risen in truth. To the far side sat Robin. Hands clutched around a pristine white folder as if the papers inside could somehow save her. She wasn't on trial, not officially, but her presence was like fire waiting for oxygen. "Counsel, are your parties prepared to proceed?" The judge's voice echoed. Christine's attorney rose first, calm and confident. "Yes, Your Honor." Kody's lawyer followed, jaw tight. "We are." The judge nodded. "Mrs. Brown, you may speak." Christine rose slowly, not just standing, but ascending. The weight of generations of silence lifted with her. She looked around the courtroom, at the judge, at Cody, at the world watching live across continents. Her voice was soft but unwavering. "We built our lives together," she began. "We shared a home, a faith, a dream. We believed in unity, in love, in promises made before God and before the world." A murmur rippled through the room. Cameras zoomed in. Hearts raced. Then her eyes locked on Cody, not with hate, but with clarity. And he abandoned it. "He abandoned us?" Gasps erupted. Kody's jaw clenched, his pride fracturing under the weight of her truth. Christine continued, her tone gathering fire. "This isn't about love. Love can fade, but trust is sacred. He asked us to believe in unity, so we did. He asked us to invest, so we did. He drew the maps, and we followed them. And when he walked away, he didn't just leave a family. He left paperwork. He left promises. He left truth buried in silence." Her words hit harder than any lawyer's argument. The judge leaned forward, silent, observant. "We are not here for revenge," Christine declared, her voice steady. "We are here for fairness, for closure, for the justice he thought we'd never demand." Janelle reached over, squeezing her hand. Strength meeting strength. "Your Honor, we ask this court to recognize the shared sacrifice, the shared work, the promises made in trust, even if never written in ink. When trust is broken, justice must step in." The room froze. No sound, no movement, just breath and truth suspended between them. Then softly, Meri whispered, "We heard you," and the world watching online did too. The judge turned to Cody. "Mr. Brown, do you wish to respond before witnesses are called?" He rose slowly, pride clinging to him like a fraying cloak. "I supported this family," he said, voice trembling. "I sacrificed too. I never abandoned them, they left me." The audience gasped. Christine didn't flinch. Her war wasn't with his words, it was with the history he tried to bury. "Save your testimony for your turn, Mr. Brown," the judge said sharply. He hesitated, then sat. And just like that, the war began. The courtroom doors closed with a heavy thud, sealing the world outside. Janelle opened her binder, tabs fluttering like battle flags. The judge's tone dropped lower. "Call your first witness." Janelle stood, calm, composed, unstoppable. A storm in silence. She walked to the stand, raised her right hand, and said with quiet certainty, "Janelle Brown, former wife, And when asked why she was there, she didn't hesitate. "We built a life together," she said. But he built an exit. The crowd stirred. The truth had found its voice. And justice had finally begun. Justice had finally begun. The courtroom was silent. That heavy, charged kind of silence that hums right before a truth explodes. Janelle Brown sat tall, her hands steady as she opened a thick binder, the kind built from years of ink, emails, and unacknowledged effort. Each page was a chapter in a story of trust and betrayal. The tabs were color-coded, the margins neatly lined, but the emotion beneath them was raw, aching, and real. Her voice began soft but grounded. Shared resources, shared responsibility. Every word was deliberate, steady, like a heartbeat controlling the room. "We didn't just share love," she continued. "We shared bills, mortgages, debt, and dreams." She looked toward Cody, not with anger, but with the cool, unshakable awareness of a woman who finally sees the truth of the man who once held her universe together. Every paycheck, every investment, every land deal, we were told it was for our collective future. The courtroom leaned in. The media lights flickered. Even the judge paused her pen. Janelle's tone deepened, the pain in her words transforming into something sharper. Purpose. We worked. We contributed. We gave and gave. And somewhere along the way, the promises changed. She lifted a document high enough for everyone to see. "This," she said, voice steady, "is the original property agreement. It lists all our names, all 4 spouses, and Cody, equal ownership, equal responsibility." The judge's gaze sharpened, a quiet signal that she was listening. Then Janelle held up another paper, the one that would change the air in that courtroom. "And this," she said, voice tightening like a blade being drawn, "is the updated version, the one I wasn't shown until recently." Her words hit like thunder. Our names disappeared. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Real ones. Shock rolled like a wave through the gallery. Even the court reporter hesitated mid-keystroke. Janelle's eyes met the judge's. They burned with controlled fury, not reckless, but righteous. We didn't vanish from the family. We didn't walk away. But somehow, we vanished from the paperwork. Cody jolted upright. His attorney leapt to his feet. "Objection. Speculation?" The judge didn't even blink. "Overruled." "Continue, Mrs. Brown." Janelle released a slow breath, not a sigh of defeat, but one of release. Cody reassured us constantly. "It's all for the family," he said. "This land is for everyone. These properties are ours." Her hand hovered above the papers. But in the legal record, a different story was written, one signature at a time. Her attorney stepped back, letting her words carry themselves. "Janelle didn't just testify, and she taught. People ask why I didn't fight sooner, why I stayed, why I believed." She turned slightly, facing the gallery, and the invisible millions watching online. "Because family loyalty is hard to walk away from. Because faith convinces you that sacrifice is noble. And because sometimes love disguises imbalance until it collapses." A visible tremor ran through the crowd. Even Robin, clutching her white folder, looked pale, her knuckles bloodless against the paper. "And yes," Janelle added firmly, anticipating the defense, "family finances are complicated. But complexity does not excuse secrecy." Every syllable was surgical. Every pause deliberate. My bank statements changed. My access changed. Joint accounts weren't so joint anymore. And every time I asked, she let the silence stretch. I heard the same line. "Trust me." She looked down for a brief moment, her voice softening. And I did. Then she placed her hand gently over the binder. "This," she said, "is every receipt, every text, every calendar note, every email. Proof of my contributions. Proof that I never stopped supporting this family. I was building our future while my name was being quietly erased from us." A hush fell. No one dared move. A tremor crossed her lips, not from weakness but from awakening. And when a woman discovers she's been carrying the weight while someone else has been carrying the ownership. She lifted her chin. She doesn't break. She wakes up. From the back, a woman in the gallery wiped her eyes. Another nodded, silent but in solidarity. The courtroom wasn't just a courtroom anymore. It was a mirror. Janelle wasn't finished. She looked directly at the judge, voice steady, soul bared. "We didn't gather here today to shame him, or to destroy him. We came because partnership doesn't mean silence, and faith doesn't mean surrender." She took another breath, soft but sharp. Your Honor, we believed in unity. He believed in control. We signed on to trust. He signed a loan on rights. The room vibrated, not physically, but emotionally. Hearts trembled under the weight of that truth. The judge leaned back, composed but undeniably affected. And that, Janelle finished, her voice breaking just slightly, is why I'm here. Not to demand what's his, but to reclaim what was ours. Her attorney nodded slowly. No further questions at this time. The judge turned to the defense table. Your witness. And for the first time that day, Kody Brown looked genuinely afraid. Kody Brown looked genuinely afraid. The air in the courtroom was electric again, that tense, breathless moment when the next chapter of truth begins to unfold. Cody's attorney rose from his chair, smoothing his suit jacket like confidence was something he could polish into existence. He straightened his tie, glanced at the judge, then at Janelle, and tried on a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Mrs. Brown, he began, his voice coated in a politeness that was too smooth to be sincere. Isn't it true that you willingly stepped away from the family structure? Janelle didn't blink. Her reply came calm, measured, and devastatingly precise. I stepped away from hurt, she said evenly. I didn't step away from what I helped build. The lawyer's jaw tightened. He tried again, pressing for control. And isn't it true, he continued, that you benefited financially for many years as part of this family structure? Yes, she answered simply. No hesitation, no apology. Then she leaned forward slightly, locking eyes with him. And I paid into it. Supported it. Maintained it. Built it. Benefits aren't charity when you earn them. A faint gasp of admiration rippled through the courtroom, not loud but powerful enough to shift the mood. For the first time, the defense attorney faltered. So, he said, fumbling slightly, you claim ignorance to all financial changes? Janelle's lips curved just enough to show that she wasn't intimidated. No, she replied, voice low but cutting. I claim betrayal. The word snapped through the air like a whip. The gallery stirred. Someone audibly inhaled. Even the judge's pen stopped mid-motion. Financial transparency, Janelle continued, is not optional in unity, and silence is not consent. Even the judge's eyes flickered, just briefly, an acknowledgement of how sharply she had drawn that line. The attorney hesitated, his earlier confidence evaporating. There were more questions on his paper, but none that could survive in the heat of her conviction. No further questions, he muttered, retreating to his seat. Janelle rose, gathered her binder, and returned to her chair. Christine reached over to squeeze her hand. Meri brushed a tear that she didn't try to hide. For a fleeting moment, the courtroom didn't feel like a place of law and punishment. It felt like a place of healing. A storm had passed, but everyone could feel it. This was just the beginning of the war. The judge cleared her throat, her tone even, but her eyes heavy with the gravity of what had just unfolded. This court acknowledges the testimony and the evidence, she said, and then paused, a beat of silence that felt eternal. Next witness. The air seemed to tremble. Camera shutters clicked faintly outside like distant thunder. Inside, the courtroom inhaled as one. The next chapter was about to begin. Christine reached over and touched Meri's arm gently. Meri closed her eyes for a moment, gathering the courage of 1,000 sleepless nights. The echoes of prayers whispered into silence, the memories of tears she'd never let anyone see. Then she stood, not with Christine's fire, not with Janelle's steel, but with something older, something that had survived storms by clinging to wreckage until the sun finally rose. She walked toward the witness stand slowly, not timidly, but intentionally. Every step carried years of love, pain, and unspoken truth. The bailiff raised a hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Meri's fingers trembled as she placed her hand on the Bible. Her voice, when it came, was steady as a hymn. I swear. She sat down, smoothing her skirt as if to steady herself. Her palms rested in her lap, open, soft, like she was afraid that if she clenched them, her grief would spill out and flood the room. Her attorney approached slowly, his tone gentle, reverent, like he was addressing something sacred, something fragile and unbreakable all at once. Please state your name for the record. Meri Brown. And your relationship to the defendant? She inhaled, the breath of a woman carrying decades in her lungs. Former wife, she said, and then, after a pause that felt like history itself exhaling, and first wife. Those two words hung in the air like a spirit long denied but finally acknowledged. First wife. Not bitter. Not boastful, just true. And why are you here today? Meri closed her eyes briefly, the courtroom watching the slow rise and fall of her chest. When she opened them again, her eyes shimmered like glass reflecting stormlight. "I'm here," she whispered, "because loyalty has a limit, and silence has an expiration." She didn't look at Cody yet. She looked at the judge. Then the gallery. Then at the invisible millions watching from their homes, women who saw themselves in her story. "When you're the first," she began softly, "you don't just join a family. You build it." A pause. The entire room leaned closer. "You lay the foundation. You make sacrifices when there are no guarantees. You hold hands when dreams are fragile. You encourage when confidence is scarce. You believe because you are the first one invited to believe." Her throat tightened. She swallowed hard. "I believed." Her eyes dropped to her hands lined with years of devotion, fingers marked by the shadow of a wedding ring that no longer existed. "I believed in him, in us, in the vision, in the sisterhood. I believed in a forever that looked different than the world expected." She looked up again, and this time the emotion cracked through her composure, not breaking her, but humanizing her. "And somewhere along the line, I became an afterthought in the forever I helped build." A woman in the back quietly wiped her eyes. Even the judge's gaze softened. "When new wives came," Meri continued, "I didn't protest. I welcomed them. I helped them build a life that wasn't easy, wasn't normal, but was built on faith and commitment." Her voice trembled, but not from weakness, from pride. "I watched babies be born. I celebrated holidays. I wept with everyone. Prayed with everyone. Fought for everyone. I was the glue even when I was cracking." Cody shifted in his seat, jaw clenched, refusing to meet her eyes. Meri finally turned toward him. Her voice broke just slightly, but her gaze didn't waver. "And you stopped seeing me?" Silence stabbed through the room like glass shattering. "You stopped choosing me. Not suddenly, slowly. So slowly that I thought it was my fault. That if I were more, did more, prayed longer, smiled bigger, sacrificed deeper, maybe I'd feel loved again." A tear slid down her cheek. She didn't wipe it. "That's the danger of loyalty," she whispered. The courtroom stayed utterly still. No one moved. No one dared breathe. The courtroom air felt heavy, thick with truth, grief, and a history too long ignored. Meri's final words still lingered like incense in a chapel after prayer. "Fairness is not compensation. It's respect." The moment hung suspended in silence. The judge's gavel hadn't yet fallen, but something had already shifted. Then movement. Slow, deliberate. Kody Brown's attorney stood, smoothing his navy suit as if authority could be pressed back into the fabric. His jaw set, but the tension behind his eyes betrayed uncertainty. "Mr. Brown," he began softly, "you don't have to—" Cody raised a hand, cutting him off. His voice low, trembling, not from fear, but from the kind of pride that doesn't know how to bow. "No," he said. "I need to speak." The gallery froze. Christine's face went still. Janelle straightened, and Meri's hands folded gently in her lap like a prayer waiting to be answered. Even the judge exhaled, steadying herself. Cody rose, and the sound of his chair scraping across the courtroom floor rang out like a gunshot. Sharp, final, warning. He moved toward the witness stand, shoulders squared, the faintest quiver betraying the storm underneath. He placed his hand on the Bible, his lips barely moved. "I swear to tell the truth." He sat. Silence. Then, his first words taut and trembling between defiance and exhaustion. "For 30 years, Cody began, voice rising and cracking in equal measure, "I carried this family." He leaned forward, fingers gripping the wood. "I led it. I protected it. I made decisions for everyone's benefit." The courtroom didn't move. Even the air seemed afraid to shift. He turned his gaze toward the plaintiff's table, toward Christine, Janelle, and Meri, his voice trembling with something that almost sounded like grief. "I wasn't perfect," he said, "but I was there. I showed up. And one by one you walked away." Christine's jaw tightened. Janelle's eyes didn't flinch. Meri looked at him, not with hatred, not even pity, but with the still calm sorrow of someone who had already buried what they once loved. Cody's throat tightened. "When I married each of you—" He paused, then corrected himself, almost choking on the word. "When I committed to each of you, it wasn't obligation. It was love. It was faith. It was purpose." He looked up at the judge, then back to the women he once called his world. But leadership, he continued, isn't easy. Sometimes leadership looks like making decisions that no one understands in the moment. A low murmur rippled through the courtroom. The judge's pen froze mid-note. Christine's attorney leaned back, folding her arms like she was watching a confession masquerading as justification. Cody pressed on, voice fraying at the edges. "You think I abandoned you?" he asked louder now. "You think I took advantage of you? You think I planned some secret financial takeover?" His laugh was hollow, defensive. "No, I tried to build something bigger. A legacy, a kingdom. A family that could outlast us all." Christine's brow arched, half disbelief, half heartbreak. He continued, words tumbling faster now, his defenses breaking like waves on rock. "Yes, things changed. We struggled. We grew apart. But I never stopped trying. I carried the weight, while everyone else blamed me for the cracks." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Brown," she said slowly, "what you call leadership, these women are describing as exclusion." Cody's hands tightened into fists. "I didn't exclude them," he snapped. "I protected them. I made sure we survived." Janelle's attorney stood, calm and composed. "Protected, Mr. Brown? Or controlled?" A gasp rippled through the gallery. Cody's breath hitched. He looked like a man fighting both the past and his reflection. "You call it control," he said finally. "I call it structure. Someone had to lead." Meri whispered softly from her seat, almost to herself, but loud enough for the court to hear. "Leadership doesn't erase others." Cody's eyes flicked toward her, wounded. "You think I wanted this?" he said, voice breaking. "You think I wanted to be alone? To be hated by the people I loved most?" Christine finally spoke, calm but cutting. "You wanted to be worshipped, not loved." The air fractured. Cody stared at her, unable to answer. His lawyer looked defeated, his head dropping into his hands. The judge leaned forward, tone measured but laced with quiet authority. "Mr. Brown, what we have heard today is not merely about financial mismanagement. It is about the misuse of trust. And trust, once broken, demands truth before repair." Cody looked down at his hands, trembling now. For the first time in years, he didn't look like a patriarch. He looked like a man who had finally met the weight of his own story. Christine, Janelle, and Meri sat together in a rare, silent unity. Not in victory, but in peace. The courtroom, once filled with accusation and history, now felt like the aftermath of a storm. And somewhere in that stillness, something sacred happened. The women who once defined themselves by his orbit had stepped into their own gravity. The judge closed her file slowly. "This court will recess for 1 hour." Cody didn't move. The women did, standing side by side, 3 silhouettes against the light of the open courtroom door. The storm wasn't over, but for the first time, they weren't afraid of the thunder. They weren't afraid of the thunder. The courtroom was no longer just a room. It was a battlefield where truth, pride, and history collided in real time. You could feel it, like thunder trapped inside 4 walls. Kody Brown stood at the center, the self-proclaimed leader of a collapsing kingdom, facing not enemies, but the consequences of his own creation. His voice trembled, not weakly, but with the weight of someone realizing too late that control is not love. "We fought," he began, eyes darting between the judge and his former wives. "I tried to hold us together. But when resentment started poisoning everything, I did what I could. You can't run a family, any family, when every decision is questioned, when every sacrifice is met with suspicion." He swallowed hard, the mask slipping, vulnerability peeking through the cracks of his pride. "I didn't leave anyone behind," he said, softer now. "I tried to move us forward. Some followed. Some didn't." Then came the voice that every courtroom dreads, the cross-examiner's calm precision. Christine's attorney rose, her tone cool and deliberate. "Mr. Brown," she began, "did you or did you not revise financial documents without notifying the plaintiffs?" A pause, one heartbeat too long. Cody's eyes flicked sideways. "I updated plans as circumstances changed," he replied quickly, defensive. The attorney tilted her head. "Circumstances," she repeated. "Or wives you favored?" Cody's jaw clenched. "I didn't favor anyone." But he didn't need to answer. The silence from Christine and Janelle was the answer. "So," she continued, voice sharp as glass, "were these changes for the family or for your personal future?" "For stability," Cody shot back. "For survival?" She didn't blink. "Whose?" That single word landed like a gavel. The courtroom seemed to hold its breath. Cody's silence screamed louder than any denial. The judge leaned forward slightly, reading every flicker of his face. Christine's attorney pressed again, softer now, deadlier for it. Mr. Brown, you speak of leadership, but leadership includes transparency. Why weren't these women notified if your decisions were righteous? Cody's voice cracked. Because they would have fought me on every detail. Her reply cut clean through his defense. That, she said quietly, is called a partnership, sir. Not obstruction. The gallery gasped, a collective intake of disbelief. Even the judge blinked, visibly struck by the precision of the blow. Cody straightened, his breath unsteady, eyes blazing. You think I wanted this? He growled. You think I wanted division? I watched my family fall apart right in front of me. Christine lifted her gaze, not cruelly, but with devastating calm. You watched, she said. You didn't lead. The words hit him like a physical strike. Janelle leaned forward, voice steady as a judge's verdict. We asked for equality, she said. Meri's voice followed, soft but unflinching. We asked for partnership. You wanted loyalty without accountability? The gasp that followed wasn't just shock, it was release. Truth had finally found its voice. Cody's chest heaved. Rage, pain, disbelief, all tangled in one trembling breath. You all turned on me, he said, his voice thick, almost pleading. I was still trying while you were already gone. Christine rose, her voice steady but burning with righteous clarity. We didn't walk away from family, she said. We walked away from a place we were already locked out of. Janelle added quietly, You don't get to call abandonment leadership. Meri's eyes glistened. And you don't get to rewrite history just because you never wrote it down. Every word was a verdict before the judge even spoke. Robin, silent in the gallery, gripped her white folder so tightly her knuckles turned pale. She hadn't said a word, but her silence felt explosive, like a secret fighting to stay buried. Cody exhaled, shoulders slumping. His voice dropped to a whisper that cracked like broken glass. I tried, he said. I really tried. And for the first time, the courtroom didn't see a patriarch or a villain. They saw a man finally confronting the ruins of the empire he built on control. Christine's expression softened just for a heartbeat, empathy flickering behind her eyes before she steadied it away. We all tried, she said quietly. That was never the question. The judge's gavel struck once. We will take a short recess. But nobody moved, nobody breathed. The silence wasn't a pause, it was impact. The kind of silence that comes when truth finally lands. Cody lowered his head, chest heaving, pride bruised, heart exposed. Across from him, the women sat tall, not in victory, but in reclamation. They weren't wives in that moment. They were witnesses to their own survival. Outside, reporters stirred like vultures, sensing fresh truth. Headlines were already being written, microphones raised, lenses zoomed. Inside, the air felt colder, not the chill of winter, but of reality settling in. When court resumed, the tone had changed. The energy shifted from emotion to evidence. Christine, Janelle, and Meri returned to their seats. Quiet, composed, unbreakable. Cody followed, slower now, his steps heavy, his confidence fractured. Robin trailed behind, her white folder clutched to her chest like a shield, or a confession. The judge's voice echoed through the chamber. Court is back in session. Call your next witness. Christine's attorney stood, her poise radiating authority. The plaintiffs called Robert Hale to the stand. A man in his 50s rose from the gallery, polished, professional, carrying ledgers and truth in equal measure. The family accountant. Cody's face paled. His hand twitched against the table. State your name and roll for the record, the attorney said. My name is Robert Hale, he replied calmly. I served as the Brown family's financial consultant and record keeper for approximately 12 years. He was calm, unshaken. Truth didn't need theatrics. As he spoke, a quiet electricity spread through the courtroom. Every sentence dismantled Cody's narrative, one spreadsheet at a time. In the early years, Hale explained, the structure was transparent. Equal partnership. All accounts shared, all names on deeds. He paused. But over time, things began to change. A murmur ran through the room. Funds were redirected. Property titles revised. Certain spouses' names gradually removed. The judge leaned forward. Were they notified? No, Your Honor, he said firmly. To my knowledge, they were not. Christine exhaled sharply. Janelle's jaw set. Meri looked down, silent tears tracing years of denial. Whose names remained? The attorney asked. Hale lifted two papers, old and new versions of the same agreement. Originally, he said, all spouses signed. 18 months later, Only two names remained: Kody Brown and Robin Brown. Robin's eyes fluttered shut. The entire courtroom felt her silence like a confession. The judge's voice dropped to a near whisper. And were these transactions equitable? Hale looked directly at her. No, Your Honor. The word hit like a final nail sealing the coffin of deception. Cody's lawyer jumped up. So nothing illegal occurred, correct? Hale turned to him slowly. Legality and honesty, he said evenly, are not the same thing. The entire gallery stirred, shocked, moved, breathless. I'm not accusing Mr. Brown of a crime, Hale continued. But I am saying he acted without transparency, fairness, or the consent that once defined this family. Christine's eyes filled, not with pain, but with relief. Janelle nodded as if a decade of gaslighting had just been undone. Meri straightened her spine, her composure luminous. Why did you choose to testify? The attorney asked quietly. Hale looked toward the women. Because I witnessed pain disguised as loyalty. Silence disguised as duty. Financial manipulation disguised as leadership. He paused, then delivered the line that froze the room. Numbers don't betray. People do. The gallery exhaled in awe. A quote that would echo beyond the courtroom, beyond the family. The judge nodded solemnly. This court acknowledges financial discrepancies and transparency violations. And just like that, the balance shifted forever. The courtroom exhaled as one, relief, grief, and justice all in the same breath. This wasn't the end. But for the first time, the truth had spoken louder than Kody Brown. Fade to silence. The kind that doesn't hurt, just heals. Fade to silence. The kind that doesn't hurt, just heals.